We can agree to disagree, but our views are unapologetically right. It's the John Phillips Show.
And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, we are broadcasting live every single day from noon to 3 on AM 790 KABC in Southern California, 810 KSFO in the Bay Area, and streaming live on video at youtube.com/@RandyWangRadio, X at Johnny Don't Like, Facebook at KABC Radio, and Facebook at KSFO. If you have any trouble finding any of those links, go to KABC.com or KSFO.com. And if even that's too complicated, we're a concierge service here. And if you email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, we will point you in the right direction.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And for the top story today, Randy, it's time for someone to get the governor a pacifier.
Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, may be in a little bit of trouble with one of the best reporters we have in the state of California. CBS News Investigates' Julie Watts. Because Gavin Newsom did a very Gavin Newsom thing. He made a bold, big proclamation that nobody was asking for, said that this was going to be a game changer, and left the details and the follow-through to somebody else. Gavin Newsom held a press conference about 2 months ago talking about how the state of California was going to guarantee diapers, I believe like 400 diapers to every single new parent in the state of California. Guaranteed diapers, although most experts, when you ask them about this program, say, you know, the kids change sizes real quick, so I don't know if that's really going to make any sense. But when you offer a brand new service to the residents of California, it means that you're going to need to have a contract with a vendor. And the vendor that got the funding for this brand new push in the state of California was a nonprofit called Baby to Baby. And what do you know? There are some links between the people at Baby to Baby and Jennifer Siebold Newsom, Gavin Newsom's first partner. That all being said, there's a lot of questions to be asked about, was there an actual bidding process for this diaper contract? And guess who's not answering any of those questions? Gavin Newsom.
Now, when you first told me about this and suggested that there might be some corruption, I thought to myself, maybe it was a bribe to Joe Biden so he could get an appointment in the administration. Because if he could provide adult diapers to the White House, that would certainly put him in a plum position.
I don't think this plan was about adult diapers, but if it was successful, I don't know if Baby to Baby has a subsidiary that's Grampy to Grampy.
Well, maybe Joe was going to go see the Pope again. He needed him the first time.
Well, for more on this incredible story and the fight to just get the basic details, what was in the contract that we signed to have the state of California buy millions and millions of diapers, here is a report from our friend Julie Watts and CBS News California Investigates.
40 million diapers, as many diapers will be distributed this year as Californians.
That was
40 million diapers.
That's a lot of diapers.
Governor Gavin Newsom about 2 months ago at a press conference announcing California's new free diaper program and a multi-million-dollar contract with the nonprofit Baby to Baby. But immediately critics pointed out that his wife, Jennifer Siebold Newsom, also had a relationship with at least one of the co-CEOs.
Sits on Jen's board of directors. Gavin Newsom is...
That's a little suspicious.
Ooh, you were not supposed to do that.
Well, if you're the Newsoms, this is how you do everything.
claiming there was this huge, rigorous process to figure out which group to partner with for this free diaper program. But was it really a rigorous process?
There was also a lot of questions to begin with, and this is why Julie Watts started investigating this, because rumors started coming out. How much were we paying per diaper compared to how much is a diaper at Target? And is there a little bit of grift going on here? Well, if you show us the contract, we'll know exactly how much we're paying for the diapers.
Well, and don't forget, that is a very common way for politicians to take care of contributors. Go back to California Waste Solutions and all of that drama going on in Oakland and various East Bay cities. What they were accused of doing was overcharging residents for trash collection, and the government looking the other way and not going after them for doing that.
Oh, I think it goes further than that. If you want to go all the way back to the good old days of COVID.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Gavin Newsom signed those massive contracts with those Chinese companies to manufacture masks?
Oh, yeah.
And we never got to see the details of that either.
If you're best friends with the CEO of this company.
So we did a little fact check, and you should definitely go check out the story we did last month.
We did. We covered it. Julie's the best. Julie gives us lots of content.
But we could only go so far.
So far, the state will not give us a copy of the contract or the competitive bid scoring sheet.
4 days after that very high-profile press conference, we simply asked the governor's office for a copy of that contract that everyone was talking about.
Wouldn't that be a very simple ask? You make this big proclamation that we're going to give a whole bunch of money to baby to give out diapers to every new parent in California. Shouldn't we know how much they're getting and how much the diapers cost?
And keep in mind, taxpayers in California pay for a Department of Communications within the governor's office. But instead of providing salient information like this, they just get bitchy with people on X.
Told us reach out to California Health and Human Services. They told us the contracts were with yet another agency.
Boy, Shangy, you know, I feel like it's the drop I have to play of her the most, because it's the best thing she ever said.
The bureaucracy is real.
Truer words have never been said.
Agency told us our request had been received. That means legally they had a maximum of 10 days to tell us whether or not we're going to get them.
Well, wait, that was in May, and it's now July. So
Tick tock.
Something tells me that the state did not follow through on what the state law is on public records requests.
Exactly 10 days later, now 14 days after the press conference, the state replies, citing an unusual circumstance clause in the California Public Records Act, giving them another 14 days to decide if these are disclosable records.
Okay, now this looks even worse. Even if there is nothing to see here, the fact that they don't want to show the contract is adding all kinds of suspicion about Gavin Newsom and Jen Newsom's relationship with baby to baby for this state-funded program that nobody asked for.
And keep in mind, they're not asking for something from the archives. They're asking for something that is theoretically easy to find and easy to provide if you're willing to do so. The delay is there because they don't want to do it, and they're trying to figure out how they can get away with not doing it.
I love when the Twitter and the YouTube people just write, bureaucracy.
California law clearly states any executed contract is a public record, and so are competitive bid scoring sheets.
Because that's one of the allegations here. Was there an actual, and this is so true with so many different government contracts. This is one of the reasons that Alberto Carvalho is no longer in charge of LAUSD because of that FBI investigation, where the LAUSD spent millions of dollars on developing an AI chatbot to teach the kids algebra, and he ended up giving that contract to a friend of his. If there's no bidding process, this is as straight up corruption as you can get.
And just to be clear, this is not like it falls in some sort of gray area. This is clear-cut, black and white. They just don't want to do what they're legally obligated to do, which is to provide the contract.
Fast forward 14 more days. Spoiler alert, they are disclosable records, but the state would need another 3 to 4 weeks to get us copies.
This is not looking good.
How is it that there is a deadline in the law in terms of how long you have to provide something like this, and they just make up new terms on their own, and we're just supposed to deal with it?
Well, if you think about it, outside of our incredible reporters and our press, like Julie Watts, like Ashley Zavala, who exactly is the person that would hold our own government accountable for failing to deliver on the law?
Not the LA Times.
Well, and it's certainly not going to be the Attorney General.
Bob Bonta.
The state waited 24 days to promptly notify us that it would need another 28 days to get us a copy of that contract.
Boy, this is a run-out-the-clock situation. I think we'll get this contract the day after Gavin Newsom is no longer governor of the state of California.
And here is part of this. Not only are they doing it in terms of Gavin Newsom's presidential campaign, they know that budget cuts have hit just about every newsroom in California, broadcast being hit the hardest. So if they take a reporter like Julie Watts and they say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to occupy all of your time on this one story for months and months and months and months, and we're not going to move on our position here. At some point, her shop is going to look at this and go, okay, we're paying someone a full-time salary to produce reports on California government and California politics, and she's not able to file stories because she's working on this really long expose on the diapers. Let's just pull her from the story and cut bait. I think that's what they were going for.
That the governor announced nearly 2 months ago.
A competitive bidding process.
Then, the day we were finally supposed to get the records, July 3rd, a state holiday, the Newsom administration told us they would need 2 more weeks.
Oh, come on!
And doesn't he call himself the most transparent governor in the history of the state?
Well, anybody that calls themselves transparent is anything but.
It's unacceptable.
That's Jenny LaRue. She's with the First Amendment Coalition.
You should have had it in your hands the day they were talking about it.
She argues documents like state contracts shouldn't even require a public records request.
I mean, there's so many questions about this, and the first one would be, who was asking for the free diapers?
Shouldn't state contracts be available online? Because you can look up what state employees make online. That's all public information. Why shouldn't contracts with vendors be available?
They'll find some excuse to say, this would be a risk to our security, like they do with all of the no-bid contracts when we've seen that Ashley Zavala has been covering with the Capitol Annex project.
I think there's a world where...
You know how much it costs to raise a kid in California thanks to our expensive cost? About $320,000 a year. I don't know if the free diapers are really going to push anybody in the right direction.
You know, I just thought of something, Randy.
Yes.
$320,000 will buy a lot of e-bikes.
State agencies just automatically upload all contracts.
I think there's a world where we make them do that.
That's State Senator Tom Umberg. He knows a bit about this issue.
Thank you, Assemblymember Pacheco, for bringing lots and lots of attention to this subject.
The Senate Judiciary Chair was instrumental in gutting a bill that would have let state agencies charge you hourly fees and even sue someone for requesting public information.
How is that allowed?
Because they're the most transparent administration in the history of the state, Randy.
Now, this is what was eventually gutted in a bill that would make it more difficult to obtain public records. But think about the legislature and their disdain for the press, where they were actually going to start looking at charging fees to the First Amendment protected free press to ask for public records in a public government.
Again, go back to the point I made earlier about the budget cuts in newsrooms. If they make it expensive to do your job, then you're just going to cover other subjects that are less expensive. I think that's part of their calculus.
People shouldn't have to pay to get information from public officials.
Now, the amended version of the bill does give agencies even more time to respond to your public records request. Assemblywoman Pacheco argues they need it.
Agencies across the state
are experiencing a sharp increase in requests that are exceptionally broad.
Meanwhile,
it's so hard to just send over a PDF.
So they're trying to turn it into a labor issue where we can't make the fat people in the purple T-shirts work any harder because they're going as fast as they can.
Yep.
we're still waiting for that baby-to-baby contract. Now 60 days and counting.
And here we are.
For CBS California Investigates, I'm Julie Watts.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Julie Watts is one of the best reporters that we have in the state of California. In a one-party state with a supermajority in the legislature, the only defense that we have are incredible reporters like her, like Ashley Zavala, Matthew Seedorf in Southern California. It's really the only defense that we have against all of this straight-up corruption.
I'll tell you, we live in a one-party state where the Democrats control everything. And the first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, is a very beautiful woman. She's a pretty lady. She is not used to people saying no to her. She's not. And you get sloppy after a certain point in time because the answer is always yes. You live a life where it's nothing but green lights. And when you live a life where it's nothing but green lights and no one ever says no to you, your morals get cloudy. Wouldn't it be something if the first partner ended up being the one that derails Gavin Newsom's presidential ambitions?
Well, she's already given him a lot of unwanted attention. You got to remember, a lot of these investigations into the Newsoms are having to do with her charities. And don't forget, a couple of months ago at a press conference where the state was going to give a whole bunch of extra funding to Planned Parenthood, that when Gavin Newsom was being asked a very legitimate question by Ashley Zavala, it was Jen Newsom who grabs the mic out of Gavin's hands and goes after the press for asking questions of the governor at a press conference.
Oh, yeah. Now the blood is in the water because the feds are looking at her. She got nasty with the California Press Corps, and now the state won't release documents related to projects that she has involvement in. She better hope she's not doing anything illegal, because at this point, if she is, I think she's a goner. And certainly we're going to be keeping an eye on all of this. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, the comments are prolific on today's show.
Nothing makes me happier when the comment section on YouTube explodes into a whole bunch of people saying one of the phrases from this show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Including Terrell, who writes in, he will absolutely never be president, in reference to Gavin Newsom and his crooked diaper contract.
All right. We have 2.5 hours more to go on the John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, a new edition of the Accountability Podcast just launched.
The Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang. Some people like to call it the 16th hour of this show. We just dropped a brand new episode today talking about San Francisco trying to ban whippets, California's ever-worsening insurance crisis, and Costco opening a standalone gas station in Mission Viejo. You can give it a listen if you like to do that by searching for the Accountability Podcast on iHeartRadio. You can also search for, KABC on Apple Podcasts. Go to KABC.com or KSFO.com. You can also find it there. But if you want to watch it just like you watch this, go to YouTube. YouTube.com/@Accountability Podcast. We are currently up to 191 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We'd love to see that hit over 200 by the end of today's show. So if you haven't subscribed yet to the Accountability Podcast, make sure you do so. And then at 3 o'clock when we sign off, you've got a whole bonus hour to enjoy.
800-222-5222 is a telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Two Christian flight attendants, Lacey Smith and Marley Brown, were fired by Alaska Airlines after they shared their religious beliefs on an employee website. The airline had asked workers to comment on a new law, a law called the Equality Act. Lacey asked a simple question about regulating morality. Marley shared her faith-based concerns about how the law might affect women, girls, and people of faith. Both women had great work records, but the airline called their comments, quote, hateful, offensive, and discriminatory, and then fired them. With the help of the First Liberty Institute, the flight attendants sued the airline and their own union for religious discrimination. Earlier this month, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, which is known as being one of the most liberal courts in the nation, ruled in their favor. The court said there was enough evidence for a jury to decide if the airline and the union treated them unfairly because of their faith. The case will now go back to trial. Joining us to talk about this is the senior counsel with the First Liberty Institute, Stephanie Taub. You can find them online at firstliberty.org and follow them on X at firstliberty_. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, first of all, congratulations on being successful under very difficult circumstances, because the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is known for being one of the most liberal courts in the entire nation, and you guys cleaned Alaska's clock along with the union.
Well, it's hard to escape some of these pretty incredible facts in this case. I mean, we have a union that's supposed to be representing its members, flight attendants, the American Association of Flight Attendants Union. And instead of representing them, it really reveals their state of mind. One of the union representatives wrote to other union representatives, can we please get someone to shut down comments or put Marley and Lacey in a burlap bag and drop them down a well? So there was an incredible amount of anti-religious hostility directed toward Marley and Lacey, and I think that made the result here inescapable.
If the union representative called for the two flight attendants who they disagreed with to be murdered, is that person still working there?
As far as I'm not sure, but I haven't heard that she's not.
Because it's wild that you could get fired for politically disagreeing with the company that you work for, but you can call for your coworkers to be murdered and you can be okay.
That's right. If you look at the comments that Marley and Lacey posted, it's really clear that it's just outright hostility toward them and their religious beliefs. Lacey posted, as a company, do you think it's possible to regulate morality? And this was in response to the company's posting about the Equality Act, which was proposed legislation in 2021. That was it. That was her whole post. And then Marley's post, as you mentioned, it was a little longer, about a paragraph, but she was expressing her really sincere concerns that the Equality Act would open up women's private spaces in a way that wasn't safe, and also the impacts on people of faith who hold different beliefs about these things.
I assume what she was referring to is transgendered athletes in girls' sports, or transgendered individuals entering women's bathrooms, those sorts of things. When you look at the polls, those aren't issues that are closed. Those are issues where something like 80% of the public sides with these two flight attendants. So it's not like they took some boutique, strange political stance that no one in the country has taken. The stance that they took is the majority stance.
That's right. And then when lots came out during the discovery period, we have one of the VPs at Alaska saying that it was discriminatory for Marley to use the term opposite sex, because that implies that there's only two sexes. So it's also a very extreme position to say that it's discriminatory to hold those beliefs. We've got conversations behind the scenes between Alaska officials saying that employees are, quote, not allowed to hold certain beliefs about the Equality Act. And it's just incredible.
Why in the world would the company solicit comments from their employees about a political issue that's being debated in the Congress unless they understood that there would be some people who disagree with them and, if asked, might post something that the company doesn't like?
That's a great question, but they announced over and over again on their website that they welcomed respectful disagreement. They posted that they wanted diverse views. And just a week earlier, there was a pretty robust debate in the comment section about other DEI initiatives. But here, when they posted about their support about the Equality Act, they opened it up for comments. And then when Marley and Lacey posted from their religious perspective, they were fired.
I fly Alaska on occasion because I live in Southern California. They're big on the Pacific Coast. And I've seen gate agents and I have seen flight attendants with BLM pins and BLM shirts and BLM paraphernalia with the Alaska Airlines logo on it. Is this a company that has gone so far off the deep end in one direction that they are just, I guess, rotting internally?
Well, it certainly evidences religious discrimination and against our clients, against people who hold different beliefs than some of the people in the C-suite. And so we are grateful for the Ninth Circuit recognizing the amount of evidence here is clearly enough to go to a jury trial. And so that's exactly what we plan on doing, is taking this case to a jury. And we're confident that they will also find that this is religious discrimination.
I wonder if they have any idea how bad this looks optically. Because again, we're in Los Angeles, we're in San Francisco here. We're in two of their hubs. They probably have a lot of customers who are listening to this conversation that we're having. If one of their employees said that they think it's appropriate to murder another employee because their political beliefs are not the same, and the company itself believes that it's okay to fire people because they disagree with you politically, as a customer, that puts you in an odd place because you go, okay, well, if they think it's okay to kill people who they disagree with, then why should they have those different attitudes towards the customers than they do towards their own employees? If given the opportunity, would they put our safety in jeopardy because this is the way they see the world, where that sort of behavior is appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, and it's also the double standard, too, because we also put forth evidence that there was another flight attendant who posted Christians who think like this should be kicked in the teeth or punched in the teeth, one of those. And that flight attendant was reported, but only given the lowest level of discipline, was not treated the same way that the Christians, Marley and Lacey, were when they posted their perspective. They went straight to termination, Marley did. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's an unbelievably bad look for the company. And it's wild to me because post-George Floyd, a lot of companies went in this direction where they went super woke and they fired people for doing things like this, and they didn't seem to care. And then the backlash started happening. Then Trump gets elected in 2024. Then you see movement in places like Silicon Valley. Elon buys X. And you see changes going on in that industry in Northern California. And a lot of companies started changing with the times. A lot of companies understood that their customer base is not as woke as maybe the people who work for the company, and they're going to lose their customer base if they don't figure out a way to reflect reality. And it seems like this is a company that's just Alaska Airlines that's just digging in their heels, that they hate Christians, they hate Republicans, they'll fire you if they don't like your political beliefs. I assume that they'll find ways to punish customers if they disagree with what they're saying, if you wear something that they don't like or that sort of thing. And it just seems like they're being more than reckless for their shareholders, for the people who invest in the company, for the people who depend on that company to make a profit, when they're behaving this recklessly. The fact that no one has been fired within that company for this kind of behavior is beyond my ability to comprehend. Where are the shareholders?
That is a fantastic question. And the world, you're absolutely right. The world has changed quite a bit since this started in 2021. But we are so proud at First Liberty Institute to represent Marley and Lacey and all of our clients just for their bravery and their stand. Because one of the main reasons why our clients bring these lawsuits is so that this won't happen to other people, so that people are aware of their rights and that we can take this opportunity to clarify the law. The law protects people, employees of faith at work. So employers cannot and should not fire you just because they hold different religious beliefs. And that's what's going on here. And we have this excellent opinion from the Ninth Circuit that we're hopeful will protect other employees of faith across the entire circuit.
This is a highly regulated industry, anything involving aviation. You have the FAA that determines, for example, how many hours of rest a flight attendant needs before they can work. Pilots, the same thing. Other industries are not like that. The Trump administration, including Harmeet Dillon, who comes from here in California, who is in charge of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, has spoken out very forcefully against companies who are doing exactly this sort of thing. And I would imagine she feels the same way about labor unions that are doing this exact sort of thing. Have we heard any noise coming out of the Department of Justice about them coming down on Alaska Airlines like a ton of bricks? Because it seems like the feds should be going through all of their correspondence with a fine-tooth comb and punishing the company and punishing the union from the point of view of the federal government for this sort of abuse.
That is a fantastic question. I would be open to those conversations, but I haven't heard anything to that effect so far.
Well, maybe we'll have to call Harmeet about that because this is something that should certainly be on her radar. Now, the court gave you permission to move forward with your lawsuit. Has the company reached out trying to settle? Has the union reached out trying to settle with you guys? Because I would imagine that if this goes to trial, this is going to go from bad to worse. We're already getting emails now, people coming in saying this is Alaska Airlines Bud Light moment. I would imagine that they would prefer that this correspondence remain relatively private and not on the front page of the newspaper, and they're willing to pay a pretty penny to make this go away. Have they reached out to you, or is their wokeness causing them to dig in their heels?
Well, we'll certainly keep you posted if we hear anything on that front. You're right that is sometimes what happens in these cases, but we don't have anything to announce at this point.
Well, I can tell you, this is one of the reasons I show up to jury duty, because if I showed up to jury duty here, I would want to bankrupt this company.
Well, we'd hope you are on the jury, but it's going to be in probably the Seattle area.
All right. Well, hopefully they do get bankrupted if they take this to trial. Stephanie Taub, Senior Counsel with the First Liberty Institute. You can get her online at firstliberty.org and follow her on X at firstliberty_. Excellent, excellent, excellent work. And we'll definitely check in with you again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Let's go to Jane, who's listening in Southern California. Jane, hello.
Hi, is this John?
This is.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a flight attendant for Alaska in Southern California. And I was almost terminated for making a Facebook post regarding someone I can't really mention because I was almost terminated and I don't want this to get back to me. But it is a very woke company, and if you do not follow the line, you will be terminated.
Well, it seems like a hostile work environment for the employees who work there. It seems like the union is just as bad as the company. And here's what I don't understand, because they sell tickets to Republicans, they sell tickets to Democrats, they sell tickets to people of all political persuasions. If they think it's okay to treat people who are right of center that way. As a passenger, why should I think that they feel any different about me? Why would anyone want to fly an airline where you know that the management hates your guts and would prefer that you be dead? I don't understand how they think that that's a good look for their customers, let alone their employees.
Yes, I agree with that. I know I've been working for them for 26 years, and ever since President Trump started to run for office, the liberals and the queers could post anything vile, nasty, disgusting that they wanted to regarding President Trump. But if you were on the other side, you were called in, and they wanted to even put, like myself, through their attorneys to try and hang on to my job.
Yeah, it's totally outrageous. And I'll tell you, and I mentioned this to the attorney, Harmeet Dillon, who comes from California, who I'm sure flew Southwest Airlines a whole bunch because her law practice was in San Francisco before she became a federal employee. She's in charge of the Department of Civil Rights at the Department of Justice. That union should be investigated. That company should be investigated. All of those emails, all of that correspondence, all of the abuse that their employees have faced from that company, from them discriminating against people because of their religion, because of their politics, all of that should be investigated. And they should have to go to Washington, D.C. and explain themselves.
As well as the COVID vaccine.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know that was one of the companies that required people to take it. But it's one of these companies, and it happened after George Floyd, where there are just certain corporations that went crazy. And it seems like a lot of them, I mean, look at the damage control that Bud Light did to try to come back to a point to where they're not regarded as being particularly political. And that's what most of the corporations did after they realized they went too far. But Alaska Airlines hasn't. And Alaska Airlines still has their foot on the gas pedal. And I'll tell you, it seems like the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals at least believes that they were way out of line. Maybe the federal government needs to do the same thing. Thank you for the call. And sorry you have to work for a company that harasses you for your politics and religion. All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California hour is next. Don't you go anywhere.